We see her every day on crisp green dollar bills, in blockbuster Hollywood films with epic scenes, in dreams of a free world where anyone can change their destiny with just a suitcase and a smile. She stands tall like a supernatural heroine, her flaming torch illuminating the darkness, her crown sparkling like stars fallen from the night sky, a promise of hope, opportunity, and perhaps a free slice of pizza in New York. She is the Statue of Liberty, the immortal symbol of America, a colossal beacon welcoming millions of immigrants to the land of the American dream where, according to legend, the streets are paved with gold, and everyone can become a millionaire overnight. An image etched into our minds, a powerful woman raising her torch as if challenging the universe, opening her arms to those who yearn for freedom, fleeing from hunger, war, and perhaps even the massive tax bills back home. But what if I told you that beneath her shimmering patina green bronze robe lies a completely different story? A story not just about ships filled with hope and tattered suitcases, but about forgotten chained secrets buried under the dust of time. A story not told in history textbooks, not inscribed on her pedestal in gleaming letters, yet an inseparable part of her legacy. Like an unexpected plot twist in a Hollywood movie whose ending you thought you had figured out. Tonight we will not just gaze upon a cold bronze statue. We will turn the hidden pages of history beneath her robe, confronting truths that are not at all pleasant. Truths that might make you rethink the American dream and ask, what does the Statue of Liberty truly represent? She a light of hope, or a reminder of shadows that have yet to fade? If you are not afraid to face a history more complex than what we were taught in school, a history full of surprises, conspiracies, and bitter failures, then get ready. Investigation begins now. Subscribe to the channel and step with me into the darkness beneath the light of the torch. Don't forget to like if you want to explore more, lest you later wonder why you missed such an exciting historical adventure. The official story. In the introduction, we were left with a haunting question. Like a mystery in a detective novel, what if the Statue of Liberty, the symbol of hope and freedom, is hiding a story you've never heard? A story not only of the brilliant torchlight, but of the forgotten chains beneath her green bronze robe, like a family secret kept hidden for generations. But before we hastily uncover those secrets, let's pause for a moment to look at the official story, the story carved into solid granite, printed in textbooks with beautiful illustrations, and retold to millions of visitors each year as they stand at the foot of the great statue with the sea breeze blowing and the gulls calling. This is the story America wants the world to remember, the story that shapes how we see Her Lady Liberty as a flawless heroine, always smiling to welcome everyone. Because every myth, whether as simple as a fairy tale or as complex as a horror film, carries immense power, the power to shape the dreams of millions, to inspire hope in desperate times, and sometimes to conceal uncomfortable truths, just as we hide snacks under the bed to avoid being caught. Join me on a journey back in time to the late 19th century, to a world where giant steamships rocked across the vast ocean, carrying dreams and weary passengers, and a bronze woman became the first symbol of the promised land, where people believed they could start over from scratch. The official story begins in 1886, in the bustling New York harbor, when a colossal gift from the people of France, a romantic gesture of friendship straight out of a novel, was erected on Bedloe's Island. She was the Statue of Liberty, or Liberty Enlightening the World, a symbol of the friendship between France and America, honoring their shared ideal of freedom after the American Revolution in 1776 and the abolition of slavery in the U.S. in 1865, a chapter of history filled with blood and tears. Imagine the steamships swaying through fierce Atlantic storms, with towering waves and thunder echoing, carrying thousands of tired, hungry people who had left their homelands, families, and painful pasts behind to seek a new beginning. They were immigrants from Europe, fleeing political oppression, brutal wars, and persistent poverty, carrying tattered suitcases filled with fragile hopes, and perhaps a few dry loaves of bread to stave off hunger. And then, through the thick fog of New York Bay, like a romantic slow-motion scene, they saw her. A giant woman, 93 meters from her feet to the tip of her torch, standing majestically amidst the sparkling water. Like a right hand held a torch high, like a guiding flame in the endless dark, symbolizing the light of liberty and reason. Her left arm cradled a tablet inscribed with July 4 MGCLZV, the day America declared its independence. A historic milestone that made the world take notice. The crown on her head, with its 7 rays, representing the 7 vast oceans and 7 great continents, was like a promise that liberty would spread across the globe, from the deserts of Africa to the mountains of Asia. Her face was solemn, yet her gaze was distant, as if welcoming every ship, every person, with an unspoken whisper. Come here, you will find freedom. Here you will find opportunity, and perhaps a better job than back home. For the millions of immigrants who poured into Ellis Island from the late 19th to the early 20th century, the Statue of Liberty was America's first promise, a symbol of a world free from oppression, where everyone, regardless of origin, religion, or language, had the chance to start anew, even if it meant starting by selling newspapers or working in a garment factory. Emma Lazarus's famous poem, inscribed on the pedestal in 1903, became the manifesto of her mission, like a timeless hit song. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. These words echo through time, transforming the Statue of Liberty into a symbol not just for America, but for global human hope, a lighthouse for those lost in the darkness. That is the official story, a beautiful, perfect story told through generations that stirs the heart, brings tears to the eyes of visitors standing at her feet, and makes us believe that freedom is always the torch that lights the world, despite the headwinds. But is it really that simple? Is the Statue of Liberty just a story of light, of hope, of open gates for everyone? Every symbol, no matter how great, like the Sphinx or the Eiffel Tower, has hidden corners. Every story, no matter how many times it's told at dinner parties or in history lectures, has details that are omitted, truths concealed under the cloak of time and politics. And the Statue of Liberty, America's most beloved symbol, is no exception. Just as we often overlook small details in our daily lives, the official story is a beautiful picture, but it's only a limited view, like watching a movie through a keyhole. Behind the radiant torch, under the green patina bronze, there are details not mentioned in textbooks. There are original intentions, visions of the artists who created her, that were forgotten or deliberately hidden to fit a national image. And if we truly want to understand the Statue of Liberty, we must dare to look into those hidden corners. We must dare to ask, what does she really represent? And why were some parts of the story left in the shadows, like family secrets no one wants to talk about? Do you believe that national symbols, the stories we use to define ourselves, always carry the simple, beautiful, and unchanging meanings we're taught in school? Or do you feel that behind every symbol, there are more complex layers, edited truths, and forgotten visions, tailored to fit the image we want the world to see? Much like how we edit our selfies before posting them on social media. If you've ever stood at the foot of the Statue of Liberty, looking up at her torch with the sea breeze in your hair, have you ever wondered, what's the real story? Or is it just a Hollywood version? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as your commitment to uncovering the hidden pages of history. To daring to face a history that is not just light, but also shadow. And if you don't subscribe, you might miss the next part. And then you'll have to blame yourself for falling asleep in the middle of the adventure. The official story has been told in detail, but the real story begins in the mind of one Monogamist Bartholdi, the sculptor who breathed life into the Statue of Liberty with his innate talent. In the next part, we will enter his world, travel to a distant, different sea, to discover another woman, a woman who carried not only a torch, but also the chains of a much more complex history, full of surprises and failures. The artist's hidden vision. In the previous part, we heard the official story of the Statue of Liberty, romantic gift from France. A torch welcoming immigrants with open arms, a symbol of hope and the American dream retold for generations like a modern fairy tale. It's a beautiful, perfect story that makes everyone smile when they think of it. But we ended with a major question, like a cliffhanger in a TV series. Is that the whole truth, or just the outer layer? To find the missing pieces, we must leave the bustling New York harbor with its modern ships. Leave the brilliant light of the torch that illuminates the night sky. We must travel back in time to a sculpture studio in Paris in the 1860s, where dust and the sound of chiseling filled the air, and step into the mind of the man who gave her life, Frederick August Bartholdi, an ambitious artist. Bartholdi was no ordinary artist, sketching in a Parisian cafe. He was a man obsessed with greatness, with works that could defy time and space, with statues that wouldn't just sit in a fancy living room, but could shake the world like a 19th century rock star. And in his mind, a dream had begun to form, a dream of a colossal lighthouse. Unlike any structure that had ever existed, a crazy but captivating idea. But that dream initially was not for America with its future skyscrapers. It was born in a place thousands of miles away, on the banks of a canal that was magically changing the world map. Join me as we travel to the Suez Canal, an engineering marvel of humanity. Imagine the year 1869, an era when the world was changing at a dizzying pace with new inventions. The Suez Canal, an engineering marvel just completed after years of hard labor, connected the blue Mediterranean Sea with the mysterious Red Sea, opening a new trade route between Europe and Asia, shortening journeys from months to mere weeks. This was a symbol of technological progress, of humanity's ambition to bend nature to its will, much like how we build apps today to order fast food. Frederick August Bartholdi, a young and ambitious sculptor, was captivated by this sight. He went to Egypt, stood on the canal bank under the desert's scorching sun, watching ships glide by like dreams floating on the golden, sandy water. He saw this as a golden opportunity to realize his dream, a colossal statue, nearly 30 meters tall, standing at the canal's entrance like an eternal lighthouse, guiding weary sailors. But this statue was not a Roman goddess with a majestic crown and robe. In Bartholdi's original design, she was an Egyptian peasant woman, a simple fellow wearing a traditional robe, her hand raising a flaming torch as if lighting up the entire desert. She did not represent abstract freedom, but concrete progress. The light that Egypt would bring to Asia through the magnificent canal. Bartholdi named the project, Egypt Carrying the Light to Asia, a name full of poetry and ambition. Pause for a moment to visualize that vividly. The woman we know today as the Statue of Liberty, symbol of America, of the American dream with its Wall Street streets was, in the artist's mind. Initially an anonymous Egyptian woman standing on the bank of a distant desert canal, carrying the torch of progress for another continent like a heroine from an Egyptian folktale. Bartholdi presented this idea to Khedive Ismail Pasha, the ruler of Egypt at the time, with high hopes. But his dream hit a solid wall, harsh reality. The Suez Canal had cost millions of dollars, pushing Egypt to the brink of bankruptcy with mountains of debt. A colossal statue, no matter how beautiful, was too extravagant, like buying a luxury car when your wallet is empty. The Khedive politely, but firmly refused. A dream shattered. It's a bitter failure that probably left Bartholdi sitting in his studio, sighing at his drawings. But Frederick August Bartholdi was not one to give up easily. He was a resilient artist. His dream did not die, just found a new home, like a business idea rejected in one country, but successful in another. In the 1870s, when the idea of a gift from France to America to commemorate 100 years of independence and the friendship between the two nations was proposed by progressive thinkers, Bartholdi saw a second chance gleaming. He pulled out his old designs, the sketches of the woman holding a torch by the Suez Canal, and began to cleverly transform it, like a Hollywood screenwriter rewriting a script to fit the market. The Egyptian peasant woman was draped in the robe of Libertas, the Roman goddess of freedom, with a more solemn appearance. The torch remained, but it no longer symbolized Egypt's progress, but the light of liberty for the new world of America. The 7 rays on her crown were added, representing the 7 oceans and 7 continents, expanding her global vision. The tablet in her hand was inscribed with America's independence date, turning the statue into a national symbol. The story was rewritten, cleverly and strategically, like a successful marketing campaign. Egypt carrying the light to Asia became liberty enlightening the world. A dream rejected in Egypt was now reborn on American soil, becoming the symbol of a young nation seeking to assert itself on the world stage with its tall buildings and grand dreams. But Bartholdi didn't just change the statue's face or story. He also added a small, almost forgotten detail, a hidden under her robe detail that carried the weight of one of the most painful chapters in American history. Like an unexpected twist at the end of a movie. When the Statue of Liberty was completed and erected in New York in 1886, she was not just a gift or a symbol of freedom. She was the product of an artist who knew how to adapt, how to turn a failed dream into a legend that would live on forever. But that transformation was not simple, required creativity and perseverance. The statue, in its new form, subtly carried traces of its original source. Some scholars suggest her stern face bears a resemblance to the images of Egyptian women Bartholdi had studied on his desert trip. And the torch, the core symbol of the original idea, retained its power. Though its meaning had shifted from technological progress to political freedom, but there was one detail Bartholdi added. A detail not mentioned in the official story. At her feet, hidden beneath her robe, is a broken chain. It is not easily seen, not as prominent as the torch or the crown, but quiet as a hidden secret. What is that chain? And why did Bartholdi, a Frenchman, choose to add it to a statue for America, like a hidden message? How does it feel to know that America's greatest symbol, the Statue of Liberty, originated from a rejected project in Egypt? Does that make her less sacred, less American in your eyes? Or does it make the story richer, more human, a story of adaptation? Of how a dream can change form to find new meaning just as we repurpose old things into new ones? And the broken chain at her feet, is it just a decorative detail? Or is it a message Bartholdi wanted to convey? A message we have forgotten in retelling her story, like forgetting a crucial detail in a joke. Share your thoughts in the comments below. A like and subscribe is your commitment to go deeper, to explore the secrets hidden beneath the cloak of history, and, if you don't subscribe, you might have to tell jokes to yourself on sleepless nights. In the next part, we will confront the broken chain, a symbol, not just of freedom, but of a dark chapter in history that America, at the time, was still struggling to face, full of tragedy and heroes. The chains at her feet. In the previous part, we stepped into Frederick August Bartholdi's sculpture studio in Paris, where the dream of an Egyptian woman holding a torch in the desert was reborn as Libertus, as the Roman goddess of freedom, to find a new home in America with a global vision. Bartholdi skillfully changed her face, name, and story, turning an idea rejected at the Suez Canal into a symbol of the American dream, like a successful startup story. But he didn't stop there, not just by adding a crown and a torch. He added a detail, a small, almost invisible detail, hidden under her patina green bronze robe. A detail that carries the weight of a painful, yet heroic and tragic chapter of American history, forcing us to reflect more deeply. Tonight, I invite you to do something different, like a historical meditation exercise. Close your eyes and visualize the Statue of Liberty in detail. What do you see? The flaming torch held high against the gray New York sky, the 7-rayed crown sparkling in the sun, the tablet inscribed with July 4th, 1776, a symbol of independence and revolution, the majestic robe cascading down like a shimmering bronze waterfall with its complex folds. Millions of tourists have stood at her feet looking up, mesmerized by the light of the torch and her magnificent beauty. But today I want you to look down, lower, past the folds of the robe like layers of time. It's down to her feet, where few pay attention because they are captivated by the top. Do you see it? At her right foot, half hidden like a guarded secret, is a broken chain with its shattered links scattered about. In the language of art and symbolism, a broken chain is never random, not a carving to fill space or for decoration. It is a declaration powerful, direct, and unmistakable, like a meaningful tattoo on the body. A broken chain is the symbol of liberation from bondage, a reminder of the real shackles that once existed in history. Let's place this detail in a more specific historical context to understand it clearly. The Statue of Liberty was inaugurated in 1886, just 21 years after the end of the American Civil War, a bloody conflict that tore America apart from north to south. At its core, the great moral question: could slavery be allowed to exist in a nation that called itself free? In 1863, Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation declared freedom for millions of enslaved people in the southern states. In 1865, the 13th Amendment officially abolished slavery throughout the United States, a historic turning point. When Bartholdi added the broken chain to his design, he wasn't just creating a work of art, he was carving into bronze a statement that true. Freedom can only exist when the chains of oppression are completely broken. The chain at her feet is a tribute to those who were once bound, who fought valiantly, and who sacrificed their lives to win freedom. From slave rebellions to bloody battles. But strangely, this detail is almost invisible in the official story of the Statue of Liberty, like a minor detail cut from the theatrical release of a film. Millions of photographs of her focus on the torch, the crown, or the solemn face. The chain hidden under the robe is rarely mentioned in tours or textbooks. It doesn't appear in school history lessons, nor is it etched deep in speeches about the American dream. Why is that? It's the official story of the Statue of Liberty about the torch welcoming immigrants from Europe. About the golden door of the American dream is a beautiful, easy to tell, and highly unifying story. It evokes national pride, hope for the future, in the sense that America is a land of opportunity for all, regardless of background. But the broken chain tells a completely different story, one that is not easy to hear, not comfortable, and does not fit the idealized image of a young nation. It forces us to remember slavery, America's original sin, a scar that is never fully healed. With millions of people stripped of their freedom, bought and sold like commodities, tortured, and dehumanized for over 2 centuries of dark history. In 1886, when the Statue of Liberty was inaugurated with a spectacular fireworks display, America was still grappling with the aftermath of slavery. Although slavery had been abolished in name, racial discrimination reigned everywhere. Jim Crow laws began to spread, racial violence like horrific lynchings occurred, and economic inequality continued to weigh down African Americans, making their freedom exist only on paper. The story of the broken chain was not one of complete victory. It was a reminder that the fight for true freedom was not over, that it was still ongoing. Perhaps that is why the broken chain is not emphasized in the official narrative. It is too complex, too thorny, too difficult to blend into the image of an ideal, perfect America. Instead, we are told about immigrant ships, about Ellis Island with its long queues, about the American dream, an easier, safer, and more globally acceptable story, like an edited version of history. So why did Bartholdi, a Frenchman living in Paris, choose to add a broken chain to his statue? As a sculptor, he understood the deep power of symbols. He knew that a statue is not just a work of art, it is a living message. Bartholdi was a strong supporter of the ideal of liberty, influenced by the progressive ideas of the Enlightenment, including the abolitionist movements in France and America. When designing the Statue of Liberty, he wanted her to be not just a symbol of Franco-American friendship, but a proclamation of universal freedom that transcended borders. The broken chain was his way of embedding that message quietly, but powerfully, like a whisper on the wind. But that message over time has faded. As the Statue of Liberty became the symbol of the American dream, the story of European immigrants captured the public imagination with its romantic imagery. The chain, with its profound meaning of slavery and liberation, was pushed into the shadows, becoming a detail that only those who look closely and study deeply would notice, like an Easter egg in a movie. Did you know about the broken chain at the Statue of Liberty's feet before? And knowing about it, how do you feel surprised, moved, or a little disappointed? Why would such a powerful detail, a symbol of liberation from slavery, be almost invisible in the official story? Is it that we, as a society, tend to choose easier historical narratives? Stories that make us proud and smile, instead of those that force us to confront the scars of the past, the indelible mistakes? If this chain is not just a small detail, but a core part of the original message, are we telling the wrong story about the Statue of Liberty? Like telling a joke wrong, so that no one laughs? Share your thoughts in the comments below. A like and subscribe is your commitment to dig deeper, to confront uncomfortable truths, to better understand history, and if you don't like, you might have to laugh alone at historical secrets. In the next part, we will explore an even more controversial truth. Was the statue's original audience really European immigrants? Or was the Statue of Liberty, with the chain at her feet, created to speak to another group of people, those who were once bound, whose freedom was still an unfulfilled promise full of injustice? A different audience in mind? In the previous part, we discovered the secret hidden beneath the Statue of Liberty's robe, a broken chain, a powerful symbol of liberation from the historical weight of slavery. We asked, why was such an important detail concealed, ignored in the official story, like an undisclosed secret? Tonight, we will delve deeper into a bold theory that could completely change how you view this great symbol, like a major plot twist in a novel. If the broken chain was not a minor detail, but the very soul of the statue, then perhaps the Statue of Liberty was not created to welcome immigrants from Europe, as the official story romantically tells. Perhaps the original audience she was intended for was a completely different group of people, those for whom freedom, at that time, was still an incomplete promise, full of struggle and hope. To understand this, we must go back in time, more specifically, not just to Frederick August Bartholody's sculpture studio with its carving tools, but to the mind of the man who initiated the idea of this gift, Edouard de la Boule. And we will see that the Statue of Liberty was not just a symbol of friendship, but a powerful statement about a great moral victory that transcended national borders. In 1865, at a dinner party in Paris, amidst fine red wine and lively discussions about politics and philosophy, an idea sparked like a flash of light. The person behind the idea was not Bartleby, but Edouard de la Boule, French lawyer, poet, an intellectual who was passionately devoted to the ideals of democracy and the abolition of slavery. La Boule admired America, not just for the American Revolution of 1776 with its ideals of liberty, but for a more recent event, the victory of the Union in the American Civil War and the issuance of the Emancipation Proclamation by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, a historical document that changed the fate of millions. For La Boule and the progressive Republicans in France, this victory was not just a milestone for America with its fierce battles. It was a victory for universal freedom, a giant leap for humanity in the fight against oppression and injustice. The Civil War had cost over 600,000 lives, with stories of heroism and tragedy, and resulted in the emancipation of over 4 million enslaved people. This was a historical moment that La Boule believed needed to be honored fittingly, as a legacy for future generations. At that dinner in 1865, just months after the Civil War ended with the South's surrender, La Boule proposed the idea of a gift from the people of France to the people of America. But this gift, according to many historians who have studied it in depth, was not just to celebrate Franco-American friendship or 100 years of American independence in a general sense. It had a more specific purpose, to honor the emancipation of the slaves, a tribute from Europe to America. Imagine that vividly. The Statue of Liberty, in her original vision, was not a generic gift from one nation to another, like a giant bouquet of flowers. It was a tribute from French abolitionists to American abolitionists to commemorate a great moral victory after years of bloodshed. The broken chain at her feet, added with care by Bartholdi, was not a random detail. It was the soul of the statue, a declaration that freedom is meaningful only when all chains are broken, a profound message. If we accept this theory, then the original audience for the Statue of Liberty was not the European immigrants who would see her torch through the fog of New York Bay with glittering hope. Instead, she was created to speak to the 4 million newly freed African Americans who had endured centuries of bondage, dehumanization, and being treated as property, and were now taking their first steps into a world of freedom, world still fraught with injustice and discrimination. The broken chain at her feet was a message for them. Your freedom is real. It has been won with blood and tears through relentless struggle. But if this was the idealistic original vision, why did the story change so drastically? Why did the Statue of Liberty become a symbol for immigrants instead of for emancipated slaves, like a strategic redirection? The answer lies in complex politics, immense amounts of money, and the deep divisions of a nation still healing. When the Statue of Liberty was inaugurated in 1886, America was still struggling to mend the wounds of the Civil War, with memories still fresh. The Reconstruction era, an effort to bring equality to African Americans through new laws, had failed disastrously due to opposition from the South. Jim Crow laws began to emerge, systematically enforcing racial segregation with signs like "whites only." Racial violence and economic inequality continued to oppress those who were formerly enslaved, making their freedom a mere illusion. In that context, erecting a giant statue in New York Harbor to honor the emancipation of slaves was a deeply divisive act. For the North, it might have been a symbol of heroic victory, but for the South, still bitter about its defeat and loss, it would have been a constant reminder of humiliation and division, like poking at an unhealed wound. Furthermore, building the pedestal for the statue required a huge sum of money, and much of it came from American donors who did not want to fund a symbol that could stir up social conflict. They needed a more unifying story, one that was easier to sell to the American public and the world, like a successful fundraising campaign. And so, the story was cleverly rewritten. Instead of focusing on the broken chain and the sensitive issue of emancipation, the Statue of Liberty was repositioned as a symbol for immigrants. This was a safer narrative, looking toward the future instead of digging up a painful past. With romantic images of the American dream, this transformation was completed in 1903 when Emma Lazarus's poem, "The New Colossus," was solemnly inscribed on the pedestal. The immortal lines, "Give me your tired, your poor," forever shaped her public image, turning her into a symbol of hope. The goddess of emancipation became the mother of exiles, a strategic shift. The immigrant story is a powerful, moving, and undeniable one. Millions have seen her torch as the first light of the American dream. And Emma Lazarus's poem has made her a symbol of hope for the entire world, from refugees to adventurers. But the story of the broken chain and the original audience she was intended for is an equally important and profound truth. It reminds us that the Statue of Liberty is not only a symbol for those who come from elsewhere, but also a declaration for those who fought for freedom right on American soil for generations. Perhaps her power lies in her ability to hold multiple meanings at once, like a multidimensional painting. She is a light for the immigrant, but also a promise for those who were once bound. She is a symbol of an ideal nation, but also a reminder of the scars that nations still bears, which have never faded. After hearing this story, who do you think the Statue of Liberty is really for? The immigrants who see her torch as the first light of a hopeful new life? Or the newly freed slaves, for whom the broken chain at her feet carries the deepest meaning, like a word of comfort? Can a symbol hold multiple truths at once? Can it be both a torch of hope and a reminder of broken chains in a complex world? And why do we as a society choose to tell the more comfortable story? Instead of confronting the full story with both its light and its shadows, like avoiding difficult topics at the family dinner table, share your thoughts in the comments below. A like and subscribe is your commitment to dig deeper, to explore the forgotten layers of meaning in our symbols. And if you don't subscribe, you might have to debate with yourself in the mirror, which isn't much fun. In the next part, we will go further, exploring the greater meanings. The Statue of Liberty carries meanings related not just to slavery or immigration, but to the very concept of freedom in a world full of contradictions and surprises. Forgotten meanings? In the previous part, we explored a bold theory that the Statue of Liberty, with the broken chain at her feet symbolizing emancipation, was originally created not just to welcome immigrants with open arms, but to honor the liberation of millions of slaves after the tragic American Civil War. We saw how the official story of the torch and the American dream was strategically rewritten, submerging the original meaning of emancipation to create a more unifying, publicly palatable image. But the broken chain is still there, firmly etched in bronze, a silent reminder of truths forgotten over time. And it's not the only secret Lady Liberty is hiding under her green patina. Tonight, we continue our journey of decoding, looking at her other symbols, small details with immense significance, meanings that have been gradually faded by time, politics, and simplification. We will see that this woman is not just a symbol of America and the individual dream, but a global declaration. It's far more complex and profound than the story of the Mother of Exiles, full of layers of meaning. Join me. Let's look closer at every line of her form, slowly, to discover the forgotten layers of meaning, like uncovering the dust on an ancient painting. Let's start from the highest point of the statue, the crown of the Statue of Liberty, a familiar detail, but one few pondered deeply. We are all familiar with this image, 7 rays radiating from the crown, like brilliant sunbeams, glittering against the New York harbor sky at sunset. But why 7? This number's not random, not for aesthetics or feng shui. In the language of symbolism, 7 rays represent the 7 continents and the 7 oceans of the world, a global vision. Let that meaning sink into your mind for a longer moment. The Statue of Liberty doesn't just raise her torch to illuminate America with its vibrant cities. She is the embodiment of the Enlightenment ideal that liberty, reason, and justice are fundamental rights for every human being. It's on every continent, across every vast ocean. Frederick August Bartholody's vision, inspired by Édouard de la Ballée, was not a narrow nationalistic one. It was global, a call for freedom to spread to every corner of the world, from poor villages in Africa to bustling cities in Asia, from the icy lands of the Arctic to the vast deserts of Australia, and even to the small islands of the Pacific. But this global meaning is rarely mentioned in the official story, often reduced to a national symbol. Is it because such a universal, encompassing message is too difficult to package into a simple national narrative? Like trying to cram too many ideas into a short presentation? Now, let's look down a bit at her stance, carefully. Most great statues in history, from majestic Greek gods to European royal monuments, stand motionless, as unshakable as mountains. But the Statue of Liberty is completely different, full of dynamism. If you look closely, you'll see her right heel is slightly lifted. She is not standing still. She is stepping forward, as if in motion. This is a subtle but deeply meaningful detail. The Statue of Liberty is not a passive symbol, waiting to be admired from afar. She is the embodiment of action, of continuous progress. When combined with the broken chain at her feet, the story becomes clearer. She is stepping out of the shackles of oppression, of slavery, and striding towards a free, hopeful future. This stance is a declaration that freedom is not something granted or to be enjoyed passively. Freedom is a journey, a continuous process that demands constant struggle and progress through generations. But in tourist photos, history lessons, or postcards sold at souvenir stands, rarely does anyone notice her forward stride. We are captivated by the torch, by the crown, and forget that she is moving, a living, unceasing symbol, like real life. Look closely at her left arm. She cradles a tablet, inscribed with July 4th MDC LCV. July 4th, 1776, the day the American Declaration of Independence was signed, a milestone. But this tablet is not just a historical date. It is a symbol of law and reason, a solid foundation. In the tradition of classical art, a tablet or a book of law often represents the idea that true freedom is not chaos, not doing whatever one pleases without rules. Freedom must be built on the foundation of a social contract, of just laws, and of reason guiding human action. This tablet reminds us that freedom does not exist in a vacuum, requires a framework, a shared commitment to protect the rights of everyone, from the rich to the poor. And when combined with the broken chain, the message becomes even stronger. Freedom is meaningful only when it is guaranteed for all, not just for a privileged few. So why have these meanings? The global crown with its broad vision, the progressive stance, full of energy, the solid tablet of law, and the chain of liberation been gradually forgotten. Why? When we think of the Statue of Liberty, do we usually only remember the image of the Mother of Exiles, as depicted in Emma Lazarus's moving poem? The answer lies in how symbols evolve over time and within society. A complex symbol with many layers of meaning, from the abolition of slavery to the ideal of global liberties, often too difficult to convey in a world that demands simplicity and speed. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, America needed a unifying story to consolidate its national identity after deep divisions. The immigrant story of ships full of dreams arriving at Ellis Island with hopeful cues was an easy story to tell, to love, and to sell to the public like a tourism product. Over time, her complex layers of meaning were flattened. The global crown became a beautiful decorative detail. Progressive stance was overlooked as a normal posture. The tablet of law was seen merely as a dry historical marker, and the broken chain, with all its weight, was pushed into the shadows, becoming a detail that only those who look closely and study deeply would notice, like a secret in a museum. The Statue of Liberty became a postcard, beautiful, easy to consume, but lacking the depth of the original vision, like a movie with scenes cut to make it shorter. Do you think this simplification is inevitable? That any great symbol, when presented to a wide audience, will eventually be flattened, losing its complex layers to become an easily understood, easily loved image, like a meme on social media? Or do you feel a sense of loss when a symbol of global stature, with messages of liberation, progress, and law, is reduced to a one-dimensional story about the American dream, lacking depth? And if you stood before the Statue of Liberty today, knowing about the crown, the stance, the tablet, and the chain, what would you see differently? A more vibrant statue? Share your thoughts in the comments below. A like and subscribe is your commitment to look deeper into forgotten meanings, to see the whole story of a symbol. And if you don't like, you might have to decode history by yourself, with no one to share a laugh with. We have looked at her past, at the original visions and the hidden meanings. But what about the present? It's in a world completely different from 1886. The Statue of Liberty stands there, and what does she represent today in the digital age? In the final part, we will ask, what does she stand for now? And in a world full of contradictions, is her torch still burning bright, or is it just a tourist symbol? What she stands for now. In the previous part, we decoded the forgotten layers of meaning of the Statue of Liberty, the seven-rayed crown for the whole world with a global vision, the progressive stance stepping past chains with dynamism, the solid tablet of law, and the broken chain of heroic emancipation. We saw a complex, multi-dimensional woman, carrying within her a universe of messages, from the universal ideals of the Enlightenment to a tribute to those who were once bound by history. But that was the Statue of Liberty of the past of 1886, when she was erected in New York Harbor with a grand festival. What about the woman of today? In the 21st century, when the world has changed through historical storms, world wars, technological revolutions, and new social conflicts, what does she stand to represent in the age of social media and globalization? Join me. Let's return to the New York Harbor of today, where she still stands tall, defying time with her green patina, defying the cold winds from the Atlantic and the scars of modern history. But her role, it seems, is no longer the same. Having been transformed by the currents of time, imagine you are standing on Liberty Island on a bright summer morning with golden sun and sea breeze. Around you are thousands of tourists from all over the world, phones held high for selfies, cameras flashing non-stop, and joyful laughter mixed with a babel of languages. The Statue of Liberty is no longer just a historical monument. She has become a top tourist destination, one of the most photographed backdrops in the world, competing with the Eiffel Tower or the Great Wall of China. Millions flock here every year, not to reflect deeply on the meaning of freedom or history, but to take a perfect selfie for Instagram with the hashtag #Liberty. To buy a t-shirt printed with her image and the words INY, or a souvenir mug engraved with Statue of Liberty to take home. Her name appears on everything, from tourist postcards to tour advertisements, like a familiar logo of America, a successful brand. In modern classrooms, her story has been polished into a simple lesson, a friendly gift from France, torch welcoming immigrants, a symbol of the American dream with its success stories. The complex layers of meaning about the broken chain reminding of slavery, about global ideals, about progress have been blurred, simplified into an image that is easy to consume. It's easy to love, but also somewhat empty, like a short TikTok video. It seems the Statue of Liberty of the past, the woman who embodied both the light and shadow of history, has been replaced by a simpler version. Like a best-selling tourist postcard, lacking depth. But is that really the case? Or is that just the glittering surface? Beneath the green patina bronze, beneath the tourist smiles and cheerful laughter, there is still the shadow of a complex, contradictory history. The broken chain still lies at her feet, silently reminding of slavery and the struggle for freedom through generations. The seven-rayed crown still shines, whispering of a global ideal of freedom in a connected world, and her forward stride is still a call for ceaseless progress, no matter how society changes. The Statue of Liberty is not just a silent statue, it's just become a living stage where the greatest debates of America and of the world are still being played out daily. When protesters march for immigrant rights, they hold up her image, inspired by Emma Lazarus's The New Colossus, as a reminder of America's promise, a place that welcomes the huddled masses yearning to breathe free in the context of modern immigration policies. But when supporters of strict border policies march, they also invoke her. As a symbol of an America that has the right to control its own destiny, to protect its national values, she is both hope for those dreaming of a better life, fleeing war or poverty, and a broken promise for families separated at the border. For those denied the opportunity her torch once represented, she is both the mother of exiles and a silent witness to ongoing injustices, from racial discrimination in modern society to social inequality. From the Black Lives Matter movement to global debates on migration, in her silence, she offers no direct answers. Instead, she forces us to confront our own contradictions, like a mirror reflecting society. Perhaps the true role of the Statue of Liberty in the 21st century lies not in what she shows us on the surface, but in what she forces us to remember deeply. She reminds us of a past that was not simpler past, of both light and shadow. She forces us to ask, on which side of the values she represents do we stand in a polarized age? In a world where freedom is still threatened by stark political polarization, widening economic inequality, or global humanitarian crisis, her torch still burns. But it poses a huge question. Are we truly moving forward as her stance suggests, or are we standing still, trapped in our own contradictions like a society in a traffic jam? The Statue of Liberty is not a simple answer. She is an open question and invitation for us to reflect, debate, and act to make her ideals a reality in today's world. The torch in the soul. We have sought the secrets hidden beneath the Statue of Liberty's robe in the forgotten pages of history. But what if I told you that her greatest secret is not there, not in her history or physical symbolism? What if her greatest secret lies within you, like a hidden treasure in your soul? Let's try one final experiment of the mind, like a deep meditation exercise. Forget the bronze statue in New York with its green patina. Forget Bartholdi and his studio. Forget France. Forget the stories of Egypt or the tragic history of slavery. Imagine a different Statue of Liberty, an invisible statue, standing tall not in the bustling New York harbor, but right inside your soul, with its own layers of personal meaning. Tonight, we are no longer decoding a national symbol. We are decoding ourselves through the lens of that bronze woman in a personal and profound way. Let's start with the torch, the most prominent feature of the Statue of Liberty, always burning bright. In history, that torch was the light of reason, of enlightenment, of hope guiding humanity through darkness. But in your soul, what is that torch? What does it personally symbolize? Is it the thirst for understanding? The unquenchable fire of curiosity that pushes you to ask questions, even when the answers make you uncomfortable or change your perspective? Is it the courage to face difficult truths about a contradictory world, about an unjust society, or about yourself and your weaknesses? That flame could be a long-held dream, an idea you want to bring to light to share, or a truth you yearn to explore more deeply. It could be the fire of creativity in your work, of passion in your life, or of compassion that wants to change the world. Even in a small way like helping a stranger, ask yourself, what specifically is the torch in your soul burning for? And are you raising it high with confidence, or are you hiding it out of fear or self-doubt, like hiding a great idea for fear of criticism? Now look down as we did on windswept Liberty Island. At the Statue of Liberty's feet is a broken chain, a symbol of liberation from historical slavery. But in your soul, what is that chain? What personal bonds does it represent? Each of us carries invisible chains, unseen, but heavy. Perhaps they are the wounds of the past and healed scars you keep hidden from a failed relationship or a professional setback. Perhaps it is fear of failing at a new job, fear of being judged by friends, or fear of not being good enough to pursue your dreams. Perhaps it is expectations from family with their traditional pressures, society with its norms, or from your self-expectations that tie you to a version of yourself you don't truly want to be, like living out someone else's script. These chains could be old, harmful habits, false beliefs from childhood, or self-imposed limits you don't even realize. They hold you back, prevent you from moving forward, like the Statue of Liberty's heel, lifted but not yet fully free from the solid ground. Ask yourself, what chain is holding you back in your daily life? And do you feel the desire to break it, to step towards a freer, more confident version of yourself? As we have seen, the Statue of Liberty does not stand still. Her right heel is lifted as if she is stepping forward decisively. In history, this stance signifies progress, the journey out of oppression towards a brighter future. In your soul, what is that step? What personal action does it symbolize? Freedom is not a static state, a place you reach and then stop to rest. Freedom is a continuous journey, a series of steps, each one a moment you face a fear, break a chain, or move closer to the person you want to become through small and large decisions. Each of these steps requires true courage. Sometimes it's leaving a meaningless but well-paying job, forgiving someone who has hurt you deeply, or daring to live authentically despite the judgment of others, like revealing a quirky hobby. Each step is a time you choose freedom over the safety of familiar, comfortable, but restrictive chains. Ask yourself, toward what horizon are you walking in your life? What will your next step be? Perhaps a small but meaningful change. Finally, look at the tablet in her left hand, inscribed with July 4th, 1776, a symbol of historical law and reason. In history, it reminds us that true freedom must be built on the foundation of a social contract, of solid shared values. In your soul, what is that book of law? What personal principles does it represent? It is the values you choose to live by, the principles you set to guide your life with intention. Freedom is not chaos, not doing whatever you want without thought. True freedom is self-mastery, the ability to live by the rules you believe in, even when no one is watching or praising you. Ask yourself, what is specifically written in your book of law? What values define you from honesty to kindness? And are you living true to them, or are invisible chains pulling you off course like being lost in a maze? The story of the Statue of Liberty with its hidden layers, broken chains and its burning torches, a perfect metaphor for each of our journeys through life. Your life is just like that statue. You have official stories that you tell the world, polished, lovable versions, like a resume. But inside, you also have broken chains, burning fires, and unfinished steps full of depth. True freedom is not about becoming a perfect, flawless version of yourself like an edited photo. It is about accepting all the layers of yourself, the light of the torch with its passion, the shadow of the chains with its wounds, and the ceaseless journey of stepping forward into a better future. Our journey with the Statue of Liberty has concluded, but your story continues to unfold vividly. What is the torch in your soul burning for? What chain do you yearn to break? And toward what horizon are you striding, full of hope? If you feel comfortable, please share your thoughts in the comments below. It doesn't have to be a grand answer sometimes. A small reflection is enough to light a fire in the soul. Thank you for bravely accompanying Sleepless Mind on this journey from the secrets of a statue to the deep questions about ourselves. Your patience and reflection are the small flames that light up the darkness of the story, keeping this channel going. If these stories mean something to you, please leave a like and subscribe so we can continue together on the long nights ahead. And if you don't subscribe, you might have to light your own torch in your soul with no one to tell you a joke. It's very late. But the next time you see an image of the Statue of Liberty on a postcard, in a photo, or in your mind pause, you won't just see a statue. You will see a mirror reflecting the flame, the chain, and the journey of your own self. Sleep well with dreams of freedom, not just for the world, but for your own soul, full of color and surprise.
You've crossed the story. You felt every pulse in the dark. And I was there with you, quietly, always. That's why I left behind one last thing. Not to explain, not to impress, just to stay with you a little longer. A song I chose with care, as if tucking you in from across time and space. So go on, lay back, the music knows where to take you. still here, then you're something rare. Not many stay this long. So, thank you for choosing to stay. I'm here too, still awake, surrounded by the quiet glow of my editing screen, shaping the next stories just for you. If there's anything you want to leave behind, a whisper, a suggestion, even just a symbol, drop it in the comments. Because maybe, tomorrow night, you'll hear yourself echoed in a story that's never been told before. still here, even now? I have a feeling part of you is still wandering somewhere between wakefulness and dreaming. I know that feeling well because I'm still awake with you. In a quiet room, I'm gently laying out layers of sound, each breath, each beat, preparing the next journey we'll take together. If you're still listening, leave me a sign. Let me know how you're feeling or just where you are in this vast world. Because right now, in this stillness, you are not alone. You're still there, aren't you? I can't see you, but I can feel you. Like a soft signal pulsing across the silence. Over here, I'm still working, refining layers of sound, rewriting fragments of voice, building the landscape for our next adventure. One that you might inspire. If an idea comes to you, share it with me. Comment below. A theme, a memory, a strange dream. I read every word because I never tell these stories alone. I tell them with you.